Hi guys, Samantha from Dressing Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a cute pendant using some diamond cutters, Mokume Gane and microfrills. So you're going to need a diamond cutter. You can technically use any shape that has straight edges on it, so if it has a rounded edge it's not going to work. Straight edges will work though, so you could use a square, rectangle, something along those lines, but I find that a diamond looks the best. Okay, and then you're going to need to choose your brand of clay. Today I'm using souffle, and you're going to need to make a skinner blend with that. And I made a skinner blend with igloo white souffle and robin egg blue souffle. But you can use any brand of clay you want. Then you're also going to need 2 squares of the igloo white, 1 square of the robin's egg blue, and then 1 square of souffle's grape colour, because we're going to be making Mokume Gane with it. So we'll make the Mokume Gane first. So we're going to stack that on top of the white, then the white again, and then the grape, like so, and stick that all together. And these will all run out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, which is about 2 millimeters thick each piece of this. So it should be about 8 millimeters thick now. Okay, then I'm just going to roll this flat a little bit because I want to put it through my pasta machine, but I don't want to stress my pasta machine out, so I'm going to thin it out a bit first, like so. Okay, then I'm going to run that through on my thickest setting, like so. Okay, then I'm going to cut in half. And I do want to remove this excess here. Trim in half and stack. Okay. And then just keep an eye on how thick these lines are. Then I'm going to run that through again, and I'm going to be running it through short end to short end. Again, on the thickest setting. Okay, and I think that's as far as I am going to go, because I don't want a busy Mokume Gane. Okay, and this should be able to fit 2 of your chosen cutter. So it can do that, so I'm just going to quickly cut that out. There we go. Okay, I'm going to put one to the side, and now we are going to make our Mokume Gane. So I think I'm going to do it a white side, facing up. Now take that and press that onto your tile as best you can. It needs to be stuck down well so we can texture it. And now you can use any paper texture that you happen to have. I'm going to be using ball tools today though, because I want to create a specific texture. So here are the ball tools I'm going to be using. They come in various different sizes, as you can see. And then I'm also going to be using a few other ball tools, larger. Bring those over. There, as you can see. And so I'm going to start with the largest ones. And I'm going to press that in like so. And don't press all the way down, but you do want to press a bit. And now I've chosen white because when we shave off our Mokume Gane, we're still going to be seeing the white in these little dimples. So if you wanted the purple to be the dominant colour, then you should have done it purple side up. But if you don't want the purple to be a dominant colour and you want a more neutral white effect, then well, you would have it white side facing up. Okay, and I'm just going to continue doing this, going from largest all the way down to my smallest, and then when that's done I can shave this to create our Mokume Gane. Okay, there we go, and I think that should do. So now I'm going to be using a nice thin tissue blade, so just gently shave along that surface. and you can go as deep or as shallow as you want. And keep these, they work really nice on other projects. Don't throw them away. And with this one, I'm not trying to shave evenly. I'm trying to have parts where I dip in and other parts where I shave it a little bit shallow, because that way you're going to get some of the purple showing through, but not a huge slab of the purple, as you can see there. Okay, and there we go. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I might just shave off a little bit more around here. Just checking. All good with that. Okay, now these little bits aren't so nice, so I'm just going to pop that off to the side. Don't really need that too much. And now we're going to burnish this flat. And I'm just going to use a plain piece of printing paper, and we're just going to burnish this thoroughly. It needs to be completely flat with no no bumps or scratches visible. It needs to be one smooth texture. So you can also rub it with your roller. Do not roll with your roller, you want to just have your roller burnishing over the surface. And this will help you get a nice even flat surface. And just have it burnishing in different directions when you do this. Okay, should be almost done. And we've got rid of most of it, but there are a few areas where we still got bumps, so I'm just going to continue burnishing until I have it completely smooth. Okay, and there we go. Now you might find that you have one or two dirty spots from when you were texturing with the ball tools. So you can either wait and sand it later on, or you can use some isopropyl alcohol, like this, to just give the surface a spray. And then take a wet wipe and just gently run that over the surface, and this will remove dirty marks and just in general clean up the surface, so we have a nice clean Mokume Gane. There we go. Okay, now I'm just gonna quickly clean up my tile and pop this to the side. Okay, now the tile needs to be completely dry before we can do the next bit, because this needs to be stuck down firmly. Just gently rub that to burnish it on. Then grab your chosen cutter, and I'm just going to place that there, and I'm just seeing which side looks the best. I like this side the best, and gently press on the edges just to get an imprint. Okay, then I'm just going to grab a smaller diamond. Now this is the smallest diamond in my diamond statement set, and this is the third largest diamond in my regular diamond cutter set. And now I need to angle this so that it's sitting perfectly in the middle. Okay, and that looks about right. Then I'm going to cut that straight down and through. Then we'll take our previous one, position that into the right spot, and cut that down straight through as well. Okay, and now for today we're going to be using the frame, but remember this is a perfectly good piece over here, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to pop it into the oven as it is. We're going to make a mini set of earrings, because I need to make another one exactly like this. I need to make the Mokume Gane, then shave it, then cut out the piece exactly like this. So we'll end up with two diamonds this shape, and then we'll also end up with two frames of this shape. But bake this in the oven for about 15 minutes so it keeps its shape. Okay, so once they're out of the oven, here's what they should look like, and I've done two. Now you can see the edges are quite ragged, and this should pop out pretty easily. So here's a very simple pair of earrings. These ones, however, we want to just quickly trim up these sides just to get rid of any scraps that we might have along the edges. And now, because this has only been baked for 15 minutes, you want to be very, very careful with it. It has the strength of a potato chip essentially. It's very, very, very delicate. So please, please be careful. It can break. If you're scared of it breaking and you don't want to risk it, you can always just pop it back in the oven for another 15 minutes. Once it's been baked to half an hour, it's not nearly as delicate. It's not properly baked, it needs to be baked for an hour for that. But it won't snap as easily. So if you're worried about breaking it, bake it for half an hour instead of 15 minutes. Okay, and then just clean up the inside here, like so. Quite easy, since it's quite brittle, these bits will just simply fall off. And there we go. So once it's trimmed up, they should look nice and neat like that. These ones put to the side, we need to put backings on them, but that can happen a little later on. It's these ones we're going to be working with next. So what we're going to do now is just going to pop those all to the side and out of the way where we cannot break them, because the last thing you want is to snap them right now. And we're going to bring over that skinner blend that we had from before. Essentially what we're going to do is you're going to flatten that out like so, and I'm actually just going to use a piece of printing paper to get that stuck down onto my tile. Okay, and you're going to do the exact same thing that we did with the Mokume Gane. We're going to create the exact same texture. However, this time, press down as far as you can go, because we want this nice and deep, because what we want from this are the bits that you shave off and not the actual finished piece after it's been shaved. So make sure that you press down as far as you can, that way it will give you a lot more space to get those little frills off. Okay, and so there we go. So now I'm just going to trim this into two halves, and one I'm going to remove out of the way. We'll trim that in a second. This one I'm going to trim this excess out of my way, like so. I'm going to hold this, and I need to see how much I actually need to get. Okay, so that's how much we need. So I'm going to try and get as wide a slice as I can. There we go. And there you can see how pretty that looks. So that's one. Pick that up, pop that to the side, grab this and repeat with that. Get myself a nice slice out of that. Okay, then once that's done, just grab this and stack it again like so, and just pop that back into a packet somewhere, and you can reuse this again as a skinner blend. All you'd need to do is roll this through the pasta machine. I'll actually just demonstrate that really quickly to show you. Just roll it through like so, fold and roll, and I'll just repeat that one more time, and there you go. Now you basically have a skinner blend that you can reuse again, and you have some beautiful frills. So if you happen to mess up the frills and you don't end up with something quite as nice, you can always just take the frills, pop them back onto your skinner blend, roll through again, and retexture, and then retry. So these are a lot simpler. And so now I want to decide how I want this to look. Kind of want it to sit like that as a window. I want to decide whether I want the flat side or the rounded side. Because, here, let me show you why. Each side looks a little different. And the other one. See there, it looks quite different. Personally, I think I prefer the flat side. So we're going to go with that. Okay. So now this is the cutter size in here. So we need at least 2 cutters larger to cut this out, but at least 1 cutter size smaller than our outside cutter, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so you see this cutter here, this is our outside rim for this. So we don't want to cut out our frills with this. You want to go down 1 size. But you don't want to cut out your frills with the exact size cutter that fits in the middle here, because then you're going to have very little to sit around the edges and it will probably won't work. So you want to go 1 size up. So you want to find the cutter that is in between these 2 sizes to cut out your frills. Okay, then let me just pick that up. I'll pick up the other one. Get rid of that excess. Then grab this, flip it on the side. Grab this, flip that around. Okay, and then I'm just going to find a piece of plain printing paper very quickly. So just bear with me for a moment. Okay. I'm actually going to do it this way up. So I'll just quickly give that a very slight shallow burnish. This is not a hard burnish, it's just to get it to stick down onto my paper. Then we're going to take this, and you can see that fits nicely. And I want to put some liquid clay around the edge so it sticks perfectly. Okay, so I've got some translucent liquid Kato here. I'm just going to pop a little bit off to the side here, use my finger and just brush a bit on. We don't want a huge amount, we just want it kind of sticky, so that when it sticks to the frill that we have over here, it will bond while it bakes. And then we will apply our backing. Okay, there we go. So it should just look a little wet, like so. Then take that and find the spot that you like best, and I'm just going to turn that on all sides so that I can see. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use a piece of paper to do this, and I'm just going to burnish over the top of that. It doesn't have to lie flat, I just want it to stick and press down on those sides. Okay. And then lift that up, make sure that that sticks. Okay, and you don't want this frill to be peeking over the side, so if you put it on your hand you should not be able to see any coming around the edges, it should be contained inside. Okay, so there we go, that's one piece. And now you will not bake it this way up, because when it bakes you'll find that this will dome in. You want to bake it this way up so that it bakes flat. And I'm just going to repeat with the other one very quickly. Okay, so once that's done, then you're going to put them into the oven for at least half an hour to 40 minutes at souffle's recommended temperature, so that this bakes so it basically bakes to full hardness. And then once we're done, we're going to add our backing. We will probably use all of the leftovers that we have, like these Mokume Gane bits and pieces, to finish them off. And these ones I'm also going to put in alongside so that they bake to the full recommended temperature. And in the meantime, we're going to make another little project. Okay, so here they are out of the oven. Now this is going to still feel a little flexible after you've baked it. It should be slightly flexible, but it shouldn't break when you are touching it. You can see a little flexible there. Okay, so it looks good from the front, but I do want to fix up the back now. So we'll put these to the side, we can do the backings for those in a little while. And for these ones, let's see, what do we want to do as a backing? I think what we'll do is we'll take the leftovers that we have created from our Mokume Gane. I'm just going to grab all of that. Okay. And I'm going to just bring over my blade. I'm just going to chop that up a little bit. Don't want to chop it up too much. I want to chop up enough so that I can kind of mix it together to make it into something interesting. Let me just fold up my sleeves, there we go. Okay. And I'm just gonna squish that back together. And we'll all have the same colours and stuff, so I won't have to worry about it matching. It's just going to be the leftover part of it. Okay, and I'm just rolling that in my hands to get it into a nice compressed ball without air bubbles. Okay, and I'm going to roll that and then start pressing it because I want to see what it looks like just as a cane as it is. So if I just press on this side here and I take a slice just very quickly, you can see that has a fairly interesting effect. So we can use that as backing. Now quickly, we want to just decide something. Do we want these window panes to be clear, or do we want to put a backing on them? So that is something that we need to decide. If you did want to leave them clear, all you would have to do is you would have to take your diamond cutters again, create another one of these frames and pop it onto the back, and then bake it, and then you would have a nice clear frame. But I think I would like this actually to have a backing that covers up these windows. So I'm thinking we'll probably use black clay for the backing on these, and then we will use this leftover cane over here for the backing on these ones. So I'm just going to roll out a sheet of black souffle. Okay, and here's a piece of black that I've rolled out to about 1mm thick. And it's got some stuff from the pasta machine, so we need to not have that. Okay, and you're just going to, before you do anything, just lay it down and see what it looks like. And it looks quite interesting. And now also, because this part over here, if you have a look, the round bits are wider at the top of this, and they kind of narrow as they go down. So you get this kind of pointed effect. So that when you lay this down, it's not going to lie down completely flat against the souffle, so you're going to get some shadows inside there. And I will point that out. I'll make it easier for you to see once we lay it down. Sorry, that was a little hard to explain, and I'm pretty sure I didn't get that across very well. I'll show you. It's easier to show than tell. Okay, so I'm just taking some translucent liquid clay. And all we're going to do is we're just going to run that over the surface, and you also want to run that over the netting. Make sure you don't have too much on your finger though, because you don't want to get liquid clay on the outside of the netting. We just want a very nice thin coat that's going to give it a nice shiny exterior, so that our black clay sticks well to it. Just make sure to get these edges as well. That's where you want a thicker layer of liquid clay. But the netting, you only want a thin layer. Alright, so twist that around, make sure it's shiny everywhere. If you see spots that aren't shiny, go back and try to get liquid clay on that. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that liquid clay there because I'm going to need that. Then take that, lay that liquid clay side down, press. Not too hard, just enough to get it to have contact. Okay. Now I'm not going to use my cutter, and I'm not going to trim exactly to exactly the right size. I want to leave just a touch of black around the outside here, and we'll use that for our second piece backing. Just get it out of the way. There we go. And we'll lift this up. And we don't really need to worry about texturing the back of this because souffle has a natural texture, so long as you bake this on a piece of copy paper or plain printing paper, it will work. So now I'm just busy taking it and I'm pressing it along the edges here. And then I'm just going to pinch that off so that we get a nice connection and we can't see the netting. And this will mean that we won't have to worry too much about doing our sides. Just pinch that clay away. And that's why I left a little bit of clay around the outside, because it helps me do this. Okay. Then just use your finger to smooth along those edges, to smooth out the bumps. And then I am going to have to smooth this again because we have introduced a few fingerprints because of this. And then you can see front. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to, what you can do, you have two options. You can either use some isopropyl alcohol to smooth along the surface. Water will work just as well in this case, so I'm just going to take a wet wipe and soak it in some water and just run it along the surface. And now this is only going to work with the souffle because it already has a texture, so all I'm doing is I'm just trying to get rid of the fingerprint marks and then the natural texture will take over. If you're using another brand, you're going to have to retexture because you're going to get the streaks from the wet wipe. Or rag, just any rag you're using. But this is just going to smooth out any fingerprints that might be obvious against the backing. Now just dry that off, smooth it, and there you can see that looks pretty good. So now we're going to pop that onto a piece of plain printing paper and you'll bake that for another 40 minutes at souffle's recommended temperature after you've done this one's backing. And just before I put those into the oven, I'll also show you how to create these one's backings. Okay, so I just had a brilliant idea and I think I should include it in this project. So I was looking at these, and since they're earrings, they're going to kind of twist around. They're not going to sit still. So what I was thinking was, what if we decorate the backs? It's a nice plain backing. We don't have to sand or anything, so I saved those little microfrill bits that we had from earlier, these really pretty pieces. So what if we kind of draped them across the surface and trimmed them? I think it would look quite interesting. So I'm just going to bring over some pieces. And I'm not going to use that one. That one I'm going to use for another project, which I will show you. But I do some other bits over here that we can use. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and drape it across like so. Press it down. I'm not going to try and flatten it though. I would like to be able to see those frills still once I've trimmed it. Okay. And then I'm just going to grab a craft knife and just cut along the side there. And that should cut very cleanly. There we go. Now we have a very interesting back. And that could be reversed as an earring if you want it. I still prefer the front, but it just adds a little bit extra to something that would otherwise be just plain black. And besides, you've got it anyway, so if you don't have a project in mind, it's a really nice way to just use up some scrappy bits that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been used. So I'll just do this one as well. And then I will bake them. Okay, so now we're going to move on to just creating a backing very quickly for our other pieces. So I'll just slice up some of this. Okay. And I should not need to use too much, so I'm not going to slice too much. I'm just going to pop these slices together like so. Okay, and I'll just use my roller to just kind of roll it out into something that I can use. Excuse me. Okay, so you'll do the same with the, excuse me, hold on. Sorry about that, I think my voice broke for a second there. We're just going to pop some liquid clay onto the back. And just smear that around. And we really need to be using liquid clay with this brand of clay. Sometimes I don't worry about it too much because most brands stick to each other. However, with souffle, what you might find is that it does not stick to itself. It's something that's actually quite nice about the brand, is that it's got a certain texture that prevents it from sticking, two pieces of souffle sticking to each other very easily. And so although that's a nice thing, sometimes when you're bonding layers together it can make it a little difficult. So I would advise using liquid clay, even in instances where I usually would not use liquid clay. And I'm just busy getting rid of that excess. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing as we did with the black. We're just going to smear that off the edge like so. And everything I'm doing with this one you'll repeat with our other little earring that goes with it. Okay, then I'm just going to gently smooth along the sides to get rid of the grooves. Like so. Okay. Now with this one I want to clean up the back, so I'm going to be using some 99% alcohol. And this will just help me clean up the sides a bit, get rid of some of that smearing, and also help me remove fingerprints at the same time. And there we go. Much better. Okay, so now essentially that could also be a double-sided earring if you wanted. But I'm just going to pop that to the side, and I'll repeat with this one. Okay, so you'll pop those into the oven for about 30 to 40 minutes at souffle's recommended temperature. And so while they're in there, I just want to show you one or two more veneers with our little leftovers, because I want to show you how to use up every little scrap piece so that you don't get too much waste. So even after doing the backs for the earrings, I do have a few little bits of this left that I would like to use. So now you have one option, and I just want to demonstrate that quickly with a diamond cutter. Any cutter would work, but I just want to demonstrate that. You could take this and lay it against a black backing and cut it like so. So hopefully you can see there what I mean. You could do it like that, or you could lay a bunch of them over the surface, kind of at random. And then cut it out, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. And I've got a little something there that I need to remove. There we are. And just try to get it to lay out nicely as a net. And this is another way you could use up your leftovers. And I'm going to leave a few black spots, but in general I'd want it to be fairly well covered, like so. And then we'll flatten that out. So we'll just grab a piece of paper for that. And you don't have to flatten it out, but I think it looks better once you do that. So I'll just do that with my fingers to start with. Then I use my roller because this will give me a perfectly flat surface rather than dips and berms. Okay, and I'm not going to be making anything with this, I just want to show you the possibilities for some of your leftover bits and pieces. Okay, I'll just use my fingers one more time just to make sure I get everything. Okay, and I think that's flat. I missed a few areas. Okay, there we go. And then I always like to trim the sides because it generally looks neater once you've done that. And then you can see the full effect. And I always like this effect, it looks very pretty. There we go. So there's a little bit of scrap there. But there you can see how pretty that looks. You could turn it into a donut. I might even turn it into a donut, basically using the same techniques as we did before, where you just cut it out and do the backing. You can see that looks really interesting. So that's one veneer that you could make. Then you have this, I have some of it left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press this down and we're going to make a quick Natasha bead with it. It might not work. If it doesn't, I will just save this for backing. So all you'll do is you'll just gently roll that out like so. Just getting into a nice tight rectangle shape. So you need to roll a few times to get that. Okay, there we go. Then I like to just trim up these ends. You can use that for something else. Okay, and then cut down. And you can see there, that's not going to really make a very interesting Natasha bead. So I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to pop that straight back together as it is. Doesn't need to fit exactly back together. But there we go. So no harm done. So instead I'm going to try something different. I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll this through on my thickest setting of my pasta machine. After I have just rolled it flat quickly so that it's not going to stress my pasta machine out. There we go. Then grab a piece of black and roll it out as thin as you can get it. Okay. And I'm going to choose this side. Take the black, just going to pop that over the top. And I'm just giving it a very slight burnish just to make sure that it's stuck onto that souffle. Okay, and then again, because we are trying to avoid waste, trim out that excess and you can pop that back with your black. Okay, so we only use what we absolutely need to. Okay, then you could take a texture stamp and texture it, but I'm going to be actually using a ripple blade. I'm going to start in the middle here. Okay, you can see it's not quite cutting through to the Mokume Gane yet, so just take that black because it's still pure and just pop that back in, and then pop your blade back into your grooves, dig a little deeper. And there you can see I'm just starting to get through. And just pop that, just clean that off first. And the important thing is just to keep it in those grooves. And dig a little deeper. Okay, and there we go, it's starting to get through. Okay, and I'll just continue doing that for a little bit. Okay, there we go. Then you can leave it like that if you want, but I like to then take that and go from the opposite direction. Okay, and I just missed a bit here. Okay, there you go, and it ends up with quite an interesting kind of organic effect. There we go, and I'm just trying to get these squares everywhere. There we go. So I'll just take that, blow that off, and I'm just going to quickly grab up all of these little bits and pieces before we do the next step. Okay, then take this, and you can either leave it with that raised effect, or you can bring over a piece of printing paper and flatten it out, which is generally what I do. And this works with pretty much any leftovers. The more colourful it is, the better, but this works really well for any leftovers. Okay, and I'm just feeling it to make sure that it's flat. And it comes out with this real cool, grungy kind of street art effect. And I'm just going to quickly trim up that edge. There you go, and so you can see that looks really, really quite pretty. So there's another thing that you could make if you wanted to. So you can see 2 extra little veneers that you can make something with. I might even make a donut with that as well. Okay, and then as for the rest, this little bits that we have here, I'm going to use that for my backings. So I'm just going to take that, and I want to show you one last thing with this. I'm going to do a marble this time around. So just take that in one ball, and I'm also going to just take these little scrappy pieces that I have. Okay. Roll that into a tight ball, like so. And there we go, you see you've got some black in there. I'm just going to roll it. So, and twist, and roll, and twist. And I don't want to do this too much, just enough so that we get an interesting streak effect. Okay, then I'm just going to flatten it out. Okay, then I'm just going to run this through the pasta machine on my thickest setting. And I'm going to be running it through so that I lengthen the stripes and don't widen them. Like so. And I'm just going to run that down again. And all the way down to my thinnest setting. There we go. Now we have something to use on the back of our pieces. So what I'll do is I'll just grab these. See if there's a way I can fit both on. I might have to stretch this just a touch more, which you can do with your fingers quite easily. And yeah, we should be able to fit this on. Just need to stretch it a touch more. Okay. And there we go. Now you have backings for both of your pieces. Let me just trim down there, so you separate them. Okay. And then I'm just going to show you how I cut out the donuts so that we only have to do one bake with these. Okay. Just pop this one to the side. This one I'm just going to pop onto a backing. And now keep in mind that if you put your piece onto a paper backing, the clay is going to stick in the cutter because the paper it doesn't stick to the clay. So just keep that in mind. But this will mean that our backing will stay nice and smooth and we won't have to put another backing on. So I'm going to be using this cutter here, which is my circle donut cutter number 1, size 50 millimeters. I'm just busy deciding the best spot. I like it there. There we go. Cut that, and it might not stick in the cutter actually. Might get lucky. There you can see that the top bit did stick in. That's fine, we're not going to keep that bit. That bit will be based. There we go, remove that. And I might just cut this one more time just to make sure to get rid of all the little straggly bits in the middle here, bit here. There we go. And then before baking, just take a blade and just smooth around these edges, especially along the inside here. And this will mean that we don't have to do too much sanding. We'll have to do very little, and we might just need to scrape the edges with our blade, but that should be about it. And there we go. And I'll do the same with the other one. Okay, and there we go. They're out of the oven. So you can see there that the back's fairly clean and the sides are pretty clean. We could give them a slight scrape, but they don't really need that. And you could do a smear along the sides here, but it's not really necessary. You could also give it a sand if you want to, but again, not really necessary because of the souffle texture. So now I'm just going to show you how to drill them. So you want to choose the side that's going to be top, and because we have a Skinner blend here, just make sure that you get the right side each time, because it's easy to accidentally drill the wrong side. So I'm just going to turn them both the right way round. Okay, and I'm just going to start right at the top there. Just going to drill a little bit to start with so that I've got a hold, and then push. Okay, and then I'll just drill the rest of the way through. And I'm just making sure that I clean out that hole. Okay, there we go. Then I'll repeat with this one, and again just make sure before you drill that you've got it the right side up. We're going to be drilling the blue side. And then I will also repeat with these ones. Okay, then once you've drilled them, I'm going to just bring over a jump ring. And this is probably, I'll say maybe around an 8mm round jump ring. Okay, and I'm just going to grab an ear wire as well. Then everything I'm doing with this one you'll repeat with the other ones. So first I'm just going to grab my ear wire, going to grab the loop and the top, and I'm just going to twist that like so, so it's just sitting opposite, so that I only have to add one jump ring rather than two. And if you're wondering, these pliers specifically are bent nose pliers. Okay, then fit that on. And then slip that back into the cap. And there we go, you've got your first little earring all done. And now go repeat with these three. Okay, and there we go, all done essentially. Now keep in mind we didn't have to sand or varnish. Well, we didn't have to sand because it's souffle and it already has a texture. And so fingerprints and smudges and things like that were taken care of before we baked it. That's why I wanted to clean it off with the alcohol before we baked it, because essentially sanding doesn't really do that much. You're still going to end up with a texture, you're never going to end up with a smooth surface. And then as for varnishing, the reason we didn't varnish was first off because we have souffle, it has a texture, and so I find that when you put resin over the top of it, it doesn't look as good. It actually comes out looking kind of muddy and looking like it has a bunch of pimples all over the place. So generally I would not use resin. And also as for other varnish, I didn't really use it because we don't have any surface effects. It's all clay and so therefore does not need to be sealed. So that is why we didn't varnish or sand. Now bear in mind that if you're using another brand of clay such as, let's say Polymer, you're going to need to sand because you're going to have fingerprints and it's not going to be nice and smooth. It's not going to have pre-existing texture. You won't have to varnish, but if you want to use some resin to give it a nice domed glass effect, you can most certainly do that with Polymer. You could use Kato, Fimo, all of those will work. Also, keep in mind you can swap out these plain opaque colours for metallic ones. You could use some translucent ones. Again, you don't have to necessarily put a backing on these earrings. I did want to put a backing on because I thought they looked quite nice, but you don't necessarily have to do a backing. And play around with it, have some fun. You can see it, we had a lot of fun here. We did a lot of interesting things. We ended up with very little waste and we ended up with some really pretty pieces from just a little bit of clay. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please do let me know in the comments below and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.